Emily's legs got so numb, she like started kneeling down. I was like, Emily, what are you doing? We gotta get out of here. We bottomed out on the oil palm, and we were just gushing oil. And this is like way in the middle of nowhere.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea why we have this, but it is so lucky.
How many countries have you guys been to now?
In the van, this is 11?
You're listening to the GHT Overland Podcast.
Yes, it's more overland adventure. However, not without its inherent challenges. Over 3 years traveling full-time, their experience and current location is an obvious perfect couple to have join us on the podcast. Full of life and super fun to talk with, this week's episode is with Emily and Danny of the Vandersons. Now, in their 11th country, they have great stories and a few tough challenges to share with you as we caught up with them after skidding into Ecuador in what will be a memorable lesson for sure. Takeaways within the first few minutes of talking with Emily and Danny: have a positive, energetic outlook, never defeated attitude, and enjoy the journey, muddy or not. We're so grateful for Emily and Danny for taking their time to chat with us amidst a day of repairs. It's humbling to listen to their vast experience and tenacity in their overland adventures. Prepare yourself for an awesome episode as Lisa shares a few quick details, then it's on to earbud awesomeness.
Be sure to tag us on the social medias so we can see what kind of awesomeness you're up to. Hashtag GHT Overland. This episode is brought to you by GHT Overland. Please keep in mind we'd love your support. Keeping all the algorithm spirits happy is kind of necessary. So if you wouldn't mind, at minimum, Level 1 Love is taking a second to leave a rating on iTunes or the podcast platform you listen on. Anything from a short little I like it to whatever you're feeling. Without constant love from you, we're just sludge at the bottom of a lost cold coffee cup. Level 2 Love is found on GHToverland.com. This is where we maintain a list of recommended apps, books, and gear. Thank you to everyone who has used these links. This also helps us earn a commission, costing you nothing extra. Level 3 Love is on Patreon. This is your opportunity to support the GHT Overland Podcast with monthly little thank yous that help us pay web hosting fees, podcast hosting, and all the things that keep the podcast growing and improving. This is also how you get your hands on some sweet swag. Thank you for joining us as we pursue a renewed life mission of putting the best in people and nature on display, while tackling the ugly Goliath of today, by consistently placing positivity and respect for others in front of everything else.
So Emily and Danny, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Hey, yeah, I'm excited to chat.
So before we get started, before we get too far into our questions, if you would, can you describe to us where you're at, what the weather is, like paint us a beautiful mural like the side of your van of where you guys are today?
Well, we're coming to you live from a mechanic's. It's been a bit of a day, honestly, but Ecuador is seeming really beautiful. I had lunch over here for $2, really nice soup.
Ooh, nice.
And we're up at, I think, about 9,000 elevation, so it's pretty chilly here, even though we're, I think, at 4 degrees latitude.
Okay. Is it sunny or is it cloudy today?
It's cloudy. It's around 70 degrees, so it's pretty nice out, but no sun. But at this altitude, you'll immediately get sunburned, so it's not too bad for me.
And you guys just got to pass Colombia into, where was it you just got to yesterday?
Ecuador yesterday.
Ecuador.
Yes.
So you made it past Colombia. Congratulations. That's where everybody's supposed to die, is what we hear.
Oh my God.
Yeah, or Mexico, I guess.
Well, you guys have heard it. You talk to people that don't travel. I mean, people that we tell all the time, like what our plans are going into the future, they just look at us and you do know you're going to die in Colombia, right?
We're all just very lucky people, I guess.
Or that thing just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it probably just doesn't happen.
And how long have you guys been traveling full time now?
We've been going since August 2018, so around 3.5 years. Yeah.
Like, have you guys always had this hunger for adventure in like overland type style travel, or what inspired the van build and your thirst for adventure?
Yeah, well, one time when I was younger, I did a 7-month road trip in a Honda Accord. I'd put a tent out every night. Yeah, and back then I thought sleeping in the car was evil, so I always put the tent out, even if it was some crazy spot. And on that trip, I made it up to Alaska and then down to Florida. And ever since then, I just always wanted to find a way to work online. We were watching a lot of YouTube videos of, random van life. And she said to me, well, if we can take the cat, I'm into it. I said, all right, let's take Graham.
Nice. That's awesome. Danny, get as close to that mic as you can if you would. Have you guys settled into a daily routine, or is it just like take each day as it falls into your lap?
I think it's more taking each day as it falls, but we have a daily morning routine where, we'll wake up with the pets and we'll take them out for a walk, have breakfast together and everything. And then we just kind of see where we go from there. It depends. We usually pick like an end destination and then we find cool things along the way to check out. So
okay, cool. It seems like, I don't know that some people will talk about kind of a travel rhythm that they get into, and I think it's just maybe just based on people's personality, and some people like yourselves and probably like us, we just kind of let the day unfold and see what happens.
Yeah, I feel if we plan too much or if we plan too far ahead, something pushes us
stressful.
back, or we feel like we have to get somewhere faster. If we like a place, we just say, let's stay a couple more days. If we don't, no, not that we've ever really not liked a place, but but if we feel the need to move on, we move on.
Yeah, makes sense. It looks like you put a lot of heart and soul into your van conversion. Can you give us kind of the brief rundown on your setup and why you chose the van you did?
Well, we basically just started looking for used vans, and I'd prefer to have a 4x4, but it was impossible to find one used. So it would have been basically double the price. So starting with that as our goal, just to find a used van, we started looking around, and we even drove a schoolie for a little test drive. And then it just seemed like there were more Promasters available, but also when we tried out a Transit, the height wasn't as good. They have like 3 different heights of those, and the Promaster seemed like a slightly more clearance as well, and a little bit wider, so you can put the bed width-wise, because we're both under 6 feet, and it's about 6 feet wide. So because of that, we settled on the Promaster and just kept looking at Auto Trader, everything, trying out different ones. we just had to go one state over from Philadelphia over to New York. Or was it New Jersey?
It was New York, yeah.
And yeah, so we picked it up like that for about 20K. And then the bill, surprisingly, was only about 3,000 more. So we really wanted to get like a new-ish used van so that once we put in all the work on the interior, it would be dependable and we wouldn't get stuck some random place
in Ecuador.
like last night.
At the mechanic shop.
Yeah, this one was my fault, but
So have you guys been able to go like all the different places you want to go with a van, or do you feel like it's held you back because it's not four-wheel drive?
well, we recently did find a patch of very soft sand at like a river, and it was the Tatacoa Desert in Colombia. So we had a couple of friends who had already done it, and one had a two-wheel drive as well, but he had a V-dub.
A combi.
Yeah, and those are a lot lighter. But even when I showed him the video of what it looked like when we were there, he said, wow, there must have been a flash flood or something. So, I mean, we did get stopped on that occasion, but I'm not even sure four-wheel drive would have made it through because it was like such a dip to get down into the soft sand that I think you would probably bottom out going down. And then we thought, man, if we get stuck down there, there's no way we're getting up the other side. I think four-wheel drive would be pretty useful on a beach. And we have driven on a lot of beaches, and we do carry max tracks, so we're able to get ourselves unstuck
There you go.
pretty much every time.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We've heard a lot of times people with big four-wheel drives like, I never even used it. So I guess it depends obviously where you go, but I think you can get, and a good point for our listeners is that you can do a trip like this and you don't have to have some big built-out four-wheel drive monster truck.
Yeah, it's true. I guess it depends on the person too. I think it would be scary to go farther than we already go because in the van, like I can't imagine things would just be falling out all over the place unless you're in like some kind of a Land Cruiser or something like that, something smaller, less top heavy. I think we go as far as we can.
So we love the mural, that painting on the side of your van. Can you give us can you describe it for our listeners and how it came about?
Oh, yeah. So the mural is by our friend Nick Sawyers. He's in Long Beach, California. And we got it done right before we went to Mexico. And we just really wanted the mountains and the forest as well as like waterfalls into the ocean, kind of like everywhere we've been along our journey. So we did 2 big ski winters in the van, and we just loved the mountains so much we wanted to paint it on the side with the trees and everything. But then we've also spent so much time at the beach, and we knew we were going to spend more time at the beach, so we wanted to have that thing in there. And yeah, it's basically I think we showed him pictures of Banff in British Columbia, and he kind of based it off of that.
Yeah, and we met the guy through fellow BMXer. I've been riding BMX for, since I was 13, so I guess it's been 22 years now. And in Philadelphia, they're really big into dirt jumps, so I'd go out there and dig a lot, hang out, have fires, drink. And one of the guys there owned a BMX company called Little Devil. His name's Derek Adams, and he, for his company, had our artist doing the designs for t-shirts. And then I saw on his Instagram that he painted a van. I thought, whoa, that looks so epic. And it was, kind of a talk convincing Emily a bit, and neither of us was really sure. Plus, he was in Los Angeles, and we never even drove there until we were going to Mexico. So I think probably a day or two before, I hit him up and I said, hey, I hit you up like a year ago about painting our van. You still into it? And he said, yeah, come on over. And he made us a great price on it. He wanted to paint the whole thing. We were a little unsure, so we said, all right, let's do the one side that the Border Patrol doesn't usually see. But I kind of wish we had done the whole thing now.
It looks awesome. How do you keep it from fading or chipping?
It's just spray paint and paint pen. So we just did prep for it. We had to kind of sand down the glossy part of the paint on the actual van beforehand. And yeah, he said it should be fine, so we really don't do anything. We haven't washed it. I guess that kind of helps.
Yeah, we just never wash it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any name you've given the van?
Oh yeah. We named it Appa because during Christmas time one year, we drove from Danny's hometown in Spokane, Washington to my hometown in Philadelphia, which is about 40 hours. And we did it in 4 days. And the whole time we watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, and their bison is named Appa. So we named our van Appa.
It's awesome. I love it. Let's run through some basics on the van real quick. How much fuel can you carry and how far does that generally take you?
Yeah, our gas tank is 22 gallons, and we're getting an average of 14 mpg right now. So I think, wow. Now we're usually in kilometers, so I think we get like 500 kilometers, like 300 miles, I believe, to a tank of gas.
Okay. And then how much water can you carry in? Do you have any methods of filtering water if you need to?
We carry about 21 gallons of water, and we don't have any filters in our system. We usually buy garrafones, or the water jugs at the purification centers, or if we're at a campsite, we ask if they have potable water. We have our actual tank is 14 gallons, and then we have just an extra tank that's another 7 gallons. So
yeah, we don't have a shower, so I think that takes a lot more water.
yeah, we're really just drinking this water, eating with it, and doing dishes.
Our main tank is actually stainless steel, which is really nice because it doesn't taste like plastic over time. And it's called a fusti tank, so it's like a round tank. First we had the jerry cans, and we didn't really like that plastic flavor, so that's why we did that. And for getting the water in the US and Canada, you always just go to a grocery store, take in your jerry can, and then fill it up, take it out, pour that in. Even easier, we have a hose and a little water filter that's not really for bacteria, but it does improve the taste. So if there's a potable water source in like a campground, we would use that. Was a lot simpler than carrying the jerry can in and out. But once we got to Mexico, you basically go to these like water purification places, purificadoras, and it's nice because our jerry can, when we went up to the mountains, we had it shut, and so it expanded, and so it actually carries like 7 gallons of water, and we'd be paying for like 5 gallons every time. So like 2 of those would fill up the van, and then we just fill it up again and have extra. It's been a little bit different every country, but that's basically how it works.
All right, cool. Can you give us a little detail on the electrical system and how you set that up?
Yeah, so thankfully my dad's an electrical engineer, so he was
well,
able
that helps.
Yeah. Well, he was across the country because I'm from Spokane, Washington. Got to get that in there. But, he signed off on the plans, and I would FaceTime him when I was doing some things. But basically, we have 200 watts of solar, and that's what we started out with. But when we got to Portland area, there was like so much clouds and rain that the solar wasn't doing anything. And
yeah, we know about that.
Are you guys around there?
We're in Portland right now.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, these
yes,
overlanders...
way too well.
Yeah, these people yesterday had a Keep Portland Weird sticker on their rig. It was pretty sweet.
Oh, well, that's happening. Yeah. We don't need to worry.
So basically, we installed that smart battery isolator at that point, which connects the alternator when the vehicle's turned on to your batteries in the back. And as for the batteries, we kind of went with the cheaper ones because we really didn't expect to be driving to Ecuador, honestly. We thought, let's just go for a year. So we got the sealed lead acid batteries, which are pretty heavy. I think maybe like 90 pounds. Yeah. And they're like the size of a car battery. So 2 of those together is 310 amp hours. And we really created a nice box around them so that they don't move or anything. But yeah, that's the solar, the battery, smart battery isolator. And then, of course, everything runs through a fuse box. So we got electric water pump. We have 2 rear vent fans. We got lights.
The
fridge. And pretty much it all runs off the solar. When we're just parked somewhere, if there's a bit of sun, then the solar usually is plenty. Even just 200 watts. So I feel like the battery is more important most of the time. Yeah, what else about the electrical? Oh, we do, I guess, when we were setting up the electrical, we tried to measure how much our usage would be. And so we bought one of those meters, like a kilowatt meter it's called, that you can plug into the outlet and then plug in your appliance on the other side. And we figured out, like, wow, a hot water heater, like a boiling water thing, is way too much power. So we don't have that, but the main goal was run all these things as well as the projector we carry around. So we can run the projector for about 3 hours on this system. And yeah, we're very happy with how the whole thing turned out for being a DIY system.
Yeah, it sounds cool. What size fridge do you guys use?
Yeah, we have a 50-liter Dometic fridge. It doesn't have a freezer. It's just a cooler.
Is that working for you pretty good?
Yeah, it's been perfect the whole time. We can carry about a week's worth of food in it. And yeah, it's been good for us.
And then, I don't know, do you guys have like a heater or AC setup? What do you do in like weather extremes so you don't either overheat or freeze to death?
So for Central America, it was pretty hot. So we have 1 intake fan, rooftop fan, and 1 exhaust rooftop fan. And then we also have 4 computer fans that we built into the columns of the back doors, as well as 2 USB rechargeable fans, one DC box fan that we plug in. And that usually cools things down, as well as keeping the door a little bit open. But if it's just the pets in here, we'll have all of that going so that they're good and we don't leave them for very long. And then for the ski season, we have, what's that called again?
Webasto.
Oh, yeah. For the ski season, we have a Webasto heater, and that connects to our gas tank. So we don't have to get extra fuel for it. It exhausts on the outside of the van and has worked really well during the cold months.
Did you have any problems with condensation?
Yes. With the Webasto, you have to keep the fan on low, or you'll get the condensation on the windows and then it'll freeze over.
Yeah, I think honestly the main issue with the Webasto is that when you're at high altitude, you get the carbon buildup on the burner. So there's a little bit of a procedure you can do to make it better, like change the oxygen ratio. Or, I mean, when you get higher, there's less oxygen. So I think it supplies less fuel if you set it for high altitude. But down here, we're basically at like 12,000, 13,000 feet sometimes. And we basically can't really use it.
We just don't use it down here, yeah. But it was easier in Colorado, Utah, Wyoming when you're at a normal altitude. But down here, we have a comforter that's it's got to be rated like -50 because it's so warm.
Yeah.
And we're good with that. Yeah, as well as 2 pets that keep us warm in the.
And we also have like a hot water bottle that you can put boiling water in. Put that in the bed, or if we had to leave the cat for skiing or something, we would fill up that for him. But he's like super smart. He would always be under the blanket if he needed to be. And yeah, this synthetic down comforter is almost too warm until it's about 40 degrees at night, and then it's perfect.
So what do you guys do to manage, like, if you're in an area that's got a lot of bugs? Do you just stay in the van? Do you have any tips for us there?
So we have bug nets on 2 of the doors. Sometimes you have to just open the doors because it gets so hot. So we have the bug nets, and then if Actually, the other day we had bugs come in that were smaller than the nets, so like no-see-um kind of bugs. And if they do get in the van, we close up all the doors, and then you turn off the main lights. We put a headlamp at the exhaust fan, turn on a headlight there, and just scoop all the bugs out through the exhaust fan. Usually works pretty well.
So considering your entire setup, what's one thing you find indispensable?
I think probably, well, a lot of things, but I'm going to go with the Max Tracks because when we decided to get the Max Tracks was actually like our first week out vanning. I don't think we were completely done.
Yeah.
And we were in this national forest in Pennsylvania, and it was beautiful, but we wanted to get kind of a little out there, and we ended up getting stuck. And what was even worse is it was such a tilt. I think it was probably like 20-degree tilt from left to right. So we had to sleep like that because there was nothing we could do. You know, it was sunset, and we didn't have the Max Tracks. Yeah, and in the morning, actually, I heard like a beep, beep of a construction vehicle. Turns out there was a construction site like about, 3 minutes. We had came from the other way on like an hour-long dirt road. And there was like a really good road, like right over there. So I jogged up there. I told the guy, and he said, hey, here, let's use my chains. And so we put the chains down, and we're able to get out with just their chains on the ground. So when we were done with that, we thought, okay, we're going to get some Max Tracks. Sure. And,
chains.
Yeah. We also have toe strap or recovery strap, little knuckles or whatever they're called to attach that to the vehicle, and a compressor. So I think that recovery gear is definitely one of the most important things in the van.
Is there anything you've never used or removed?
I think that we started out with a lot more clothes than we have now. We had like summer clothes and winter clothes, and like one of them was always put away. But the first 3 months of being in the van, we realized that we were going up into the mountains and down into, sea level, and we were like moving our clothes around all the time, and we were like, this is crazy. We were taking out all this clothes all the time, and yeah, we just ended up giving away so many clothes. And eventually even more clothes because we made another spot for the cat to hang out inside our wardrobe. So, yeah, mostly clothes we've given away.
Well, you definitely have to have the cat cubby.
Yeah, he loves it.
And what's at least one favorite meal?
Oh, so I started making these tortilla, like, pocket kind of things, where you cut the tortilla down the center and you make like a quarter flap each way, and they make a little triangular pocket that I toast kind of like a quesadilla. And I usually fill it with refried beans, a little bit of cabbage, some salsa. They're super tasty, and they're perfect for long driving days because they only take a couple minutes to make, and it all heats up together in the pan. One pan.
One pan meals are awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, for like your travel days, what kind of planning do you guys do, and what, if any, considerations are you making for taking a more scenic route?
Yeah, well, a lot of times at night, instead of scrolling through Instagram, I'll just look through all the iOverlander spots coming up. And that's really good when you already kind of know which direction you're going. iOverlander shows you where the tourist attractions are too, so that's pretty helpful. But yeah, we like to kind of know like the high points, either from talking to other travelers, iOverlander, our own research online, and then kind of fill in by just checking out all the IO spots, preferring like wild camping, away from buildings, away from people if we can. Just getting out there in nature so I can play my guitar super loud. And yeah, so we do a lot of reading of iOverlander, I think.
We talk to a lot of travelers too, in hostels mostly, because there are a lot of backpackers in hostels, and they always know where, like, the cool places to go and stop over. And usually they're pretty easy to get to because they don't really have transportation. They're usually taking a bus or other public transportation, taxis. So yeah, talking to the travelers has been really helpful, or locals. Locals has been great too. They always have a favorite cute town in the area you're in.
Yeah, and we like to look at all trails to see if there's some epic hike we can do, or maybe just Google like backpacking Colombia, try to figure out some good trip we could do, because lately we've been taking not only the dog backpacking, but we'll take the cat as well. So we really love those kind of things, but you kind of have to look those up a while in advance. You don't just happen upon it usually.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're talking to the locals, did you guys have your Spanish dialed in before you did the trip, or where did that happen?
So Danny's mom is from Spain, actually. So he's got a little bit of an advantage. So he didn't grow up speaking Spanish, but he learned it in school. But his family all spoke it to him. So he really, yeah. So I think he understands what everyone's saying since he was a kid. So Danny is fluent. So we're pretty good with that. But I also am pretty independent. I want to go to stores and markets and everything on my own. So I picked up Spanish as well. Danny's been teaching me. I took some classes in San Cristobal de las Casas in Mexico as well. They were really nice because I had an hour and a half of grammar and then an hour and a half of conversation. And she would not speak English to me if I begged her. So that was really good. Danny, we speak Spanish together to help me learn more words and everything. But if something happens, then we revert back to English and then we forget what we're doing. But and then the other thing is we got the dog in Mexico, and I said I want to only speak to the dog in Spanish so that I get confident speaking Spanish. So yep, I always speak to her in Spanish as well.
Yeah, she knows all Spanish commands.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It was a good idea, I think.
All right, cool. So, hey, what's working for you guys on cell phone plans, SIM cards? What are you doing to stay connected?
Yeah, so I get a SIM card every country. They're so cheap. Oh my gosh. In Colombia, I think it was $10 for 10 gigabytes. That was just it was like 18 gigabytes sometimes. Yeah,
even better.
Even better. It was really good. And in Ecuador, it was $10 for 12 gigabytes this time. And it has always worked really, really well. You can just get a SIM for either free, $1, or just $3 or $4. And then they usually have places right after the border as well, so you're really not out of service for very long. And yeah, I kept my US number. I parked it in Google Voice. It's $25 to park it. And then I still get texts and calls from that number through Google Voice. So I still get, those, the things that people don't know that I changed my number. And then WhatsApp is almost always free for all of these Central and South American phone plans. So I asked the people that I talk to the phone on the most if they can download WhatsApp, and then I can call them, and it's free for me. So Danny has Google Fi on his phone, mostly because he works. He needs two-factor authentication for work.
Yeah, Google Fi is really cool because it will connect to any network. So when Emily buys a SIM, it's kind of locked into Claro or
Movistar.
Tigo. But Google Fi can connect to like any network. But the price I'm paying is like $80 a month for 22 gigs. And she's paying, $10 for 12 gigs right now. So Google Voice, you're paying for the convenience to every country you go to. Oh, sorry, Google Fi, because you don't have to worry about it when you get to the country. It just works, but it's definitely more expensive. So I'm thinking about probably doing something like the Google Voice where I can get my two-factor keys that way and then not have to pay so much.
All right, cool. What kind of navigation apps? You mentioned iOverlander, any other apps or tips that you've got for listeners in navigating through South America?
Yeah, so we mostly use Google Maps for traffic type stuff. People also use Waze down here. Mostly the locals use Waze, but iOverlander doesn't go into Waze for some reason. I don't know. They must have to update it. So we don't use it as much. And then for hikes, we always use Maps.me. It's a really nice app it has all of the trails, so we usually use that.
Yeah, you can pre-download an area in Maps.me, so that's really convenient.
What are a couple of favorite places you've been to so far?
Oh, man. I think one of my favorite places was the very north end of the Pan American Highway, which is called the Dalton Highway in Alaska. So there's only two roads that go to the Arctic Ocean. One is the Dalton in Alaska, and the other is in Canada, and it's like twice as long and a bit rougher on the vehicle. But before we did the Dalton, I had a little experience with it from that prior road trip, but I had only gone to the Arctic Circle and turned back. So this time we said, hey, we're going to make it all the way to the Arctic Ocean. And we actually were connecting with some other travelers on Instagram using like hashtag Alaska Highway and things like that. And we met these pretty cool, this cool travel couple. Their Instagram's exploring in a van. And that was the first time we met them. I said, hey, you guys want to drive to the Arctic Ocean with us? So we met up in the Walmart parking lot in Fairbanks, Alaska, which is the bottom end of the Dalton, pretty much. I mean, officially it's a little farther north. And we headed north together. The first spot was like insane mosquitoes. So I think we were pretty much hanging out in their van that night. And then the next night, we had already passed the Arctic Circle. And this was June 23rd when we started, which was the solstice that year. And so because of that, it was constant light, 24 hours of day. It was so epic. Oh my gosh. But yeah, we got past the Arctic Circle and we just took this random road that I don't think it was on an iOverland or anything. I just looked at Google Satellite View. I thought, oh man, maybe that'll work. And I didn't really tell them, but they were good sports, and it ended up working out. So that was awesome. And we continued north all the way. What's crazy about the Dalton is when they repair it, they basically turn a section of the road into pure mud. And so once you hit that, like you don't want to stop with a two-wheel drive, you know, especially if it's uphill. But we hit a section like that with those guys, and the vans were just covered in mud. It made like the most beautiful picture. And once you get up about, past the Arctic Circle, it's called the Brooks Range. So it's like these really epic mountains. There's only one road, so it's a very remote. And there's a couple, river spots, and then you get past that mountain range, and it's called it's like the Arctic Tundra. So it's basically a little bit ugly. It's like flat, but if you send a drone up or something, you can see there's these huge polygons of ice that create weird shapes in the tundra. So you drive through all that, and once you get to the end, it's a little bit anticlimactic because all of a sudden it's oil fields. So you're not really allowed to go past it. So you have to get like a maybe $20 or $40 tour. And I think it started at 7 a.m. or something. So we had like a coffee with some Baileys with them, jumped in the shuttle. They take you through the oil fields, and everybody on the tour goes swimming in the Arctic Ocean. So that was like really ridiculous. Like the coldest water you can imagine.
Yeah.
And I think we made it in the water, and those exploring in a van, they're Canadian, so they weren't even phased, like Scott, he dunked his head in. Yeah. I was like going up to my waist, and I was like, oh, I think this is good. And then on the way out, Emily's legs got so numb, she like started kneeling down. I was like, Emily, what are you doing? We gotta get out of here. To kind of help her get out. But then they have the heat on in the shuttle, and so it just made for a really epic experience. Unfortunately, in the summer with the constant sun, you don't see the aurora borealis, but it's just an amazing road up there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love the story, Danny, that you swooped in and picked up Emily and saved the princess. That's awesome. So what's the number one biggest challenge you've had to face on the road?
biggest challenge, I guess, just anytime your vehicle has an issue, that is so rough because it's your house. And so like the situation we're in right now, vanning can feel so real, or overlanding in general, because when your house breaks down, it's just so hard.
Yeah. If you're stuck somewhere and you're just in the middle of nowhere and there's no service for tows, there's no service to look up to even see what's wrong with your van or anything. And that staying calm in those situations, that's probably one of the biggest challenges that we've had. But I think we're doing better from when we started. It's been easier and easier, and which is better because now that the van is a little bit older, it has been happening a little bit more often where things are going wrong slightly, and it's been easier and easier to stay calm in those situations.
Yeah, I gotta tell you guys about last night. It was crazy because first off, we got through the border like smooth, 80 minutes total, super excited. And we thought, okay, let's go up this road that goes to 12,000 feet. And it was beautiful. There was like almost no traffic. I think maybe one car drove by.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there were these huge sections of mud, and that was fine. But then there was like a deep puddle, and I tried to go around it, but the van started sliding a bit. So I thought, I better just power through, but really I shouldn't have. I should have been patient. I should have just stopped or backed up and tried again, because hidden in the puddle was this really big rock, and it was actually a lot deeper than it looked too. And so what happened was we bottomed out on the oil pan, and we were just gushing oil. And this is like way in the middle of nowhere. So last night was really rough. But what we ended up doing was I went and found a farm, which was like probably 3 or 4 kilometers away, going through mud, and I had to jump 2 gates. But fortunately, the farmer had some oil, and Emily's like smarter with cars than I am, so she started catching the oil that was coming out. So we had, thanks to that farmer and ours, our oil, probably about 3 gallons. Mm-hmm. And
we waited for the oil to stop leaking out of the oil pan, and then we jacked it up to make sure that no oil would fall out of it anymore. And Danny had this silicone from redoing the headlights, so it actually says on the silicone that you can use it for oil pans. So I was like, oh my gosh, I have no idea why we have this, but it is so lucky.
Yeah, the red RTV sealant.
Yeah, so we gooped it up with that stuff, waited about an hour and a half, and then filled up the oil, and then headed down. But it, of course, started leaking before we got down. And now that we're at the mechanic, he has checked the oil pan, and there's no other leaks in the oil pan. It just separated from the top part. So we did the right thing to fix it. But we just did the wrong thing by creating the problem in the first place.
Most importantly, we made it to the podcast.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow, that's pretty epic. That takes some real thinking to be able to get through that.
Well, and when you run across puddles, who'd have think the puddle would be so deep with a rock?
Yeah,
I know. We should have checked. We should have checked.
I learned a lesson, and it's just
okay.
Crazy how stressful those can be.
Yeah. So are you guys managing laundry, like hygiene and laundry? Are you doing laundromats, or what are your best tips for people in managing laundry on the road?
Yeah, so basically any further south from Mexico, and there are no more self-service laundromats. So we drop it off at the laundromat, and they usually tell us like, oh, tomorrow you could pick it up, or in a couple hours you can pick it up, which I didn't like at first because there's like a lot of softeners and stuff. But after a while I got used to it. So yeah, it's really easy to get laundry done. And then for hygiene, we don't have a shower in here. So in the US, it was really easy. We had a gym membership, and we would just go to gym, and ever since then, we haven't really showered. We find like gas stations to shower in, and hostels, campgrounds,
rivers, waterfalls.
Rivers. Yeah, we have biodegradable soap for those ones. But it does take a little while for us to get a shower. I have to admit, but I don't miss having a shower. I think it hasn't been too bad not having a shower in here.
I think the best showers are at the hot springs.
The hot springs?
Yeah,
totally.
There you go.
Too.
Yeah, it's true.
And what about when you got to do the duty?
Oh, for bathroom?
Yeah, we don't have a toilet either.
Yeah.
It's usually the same like gas stations, hostels, and campgrounds.
Yeah, I kind of am leaning towards wishing we had a toilet, but at the same time, it seems kind of gross. We're kind of glad we don't have one.
Yeah.
We carry a shovel, and certain countries, there's not really any places that's an option,
No.
So usually finding a bathroom, but we got the shovel. We have like an emergency like bucket, which is not very glamorous.
Yeah, we don't really use that. That's like absolute emergency. Like one of us drank bad water emergency.
Yeah. Then we'll probably find a hostel anyway.
Anything you change about your setup if you started all over again?
I'm pretty good with our setup right now. Maybe I would make our doors a little bit more sound for when we're driving. Right now, if we go on a rough road, our one or two of the doors might open and nothing falls out. The cabinet doors, I'm sorry. Nothing falls out because we have everything secured inside, but it's not very sightly for one of the cabinet doors to swing open while we're driving. So I think I would change the cabinet doors.
Yeah, I think when we started out, we envisioned going for a year. And so, I probably would have put more money into the batteries and got lithium batteries. Mm-hmm. They're a lot lighter. You can discharge them 100% or like 90 or 80% instead of the 50% of the ones we have, which were much cheaper. Besides that, yeah, maybe I would have got a four-wheel drive in. If I would have known we'd be doing this for 3.5 years now.
Yeah, if we knew how long we'd be, maybe we would be a little bit more less cheap on stuff.
Yeah, but it's been fine.
Yeah, everything that we have has worked out really well.
Yeah, we have made a lot of changes. Mm-hmm. When we started skiing, that's when we installed the heater. I had a friend install it. It's still like 1,000, maybe 1,300 for the gasoline version because they're less common than the diesel one. But the install is like 2,000, so that saved a lot. Another change we did for the cold weather was putting it's called self-regulating heat tape. So it runs off your DC, and you just put a little cable of it on your water system from the tank to the faucet, and you can just flip a switch, turn that on at night, not worry about your water system freezing. But yeah, I don't know. I'd probably put more solar and maybe do induction too, because it has been harder and harder to fill propane. We always find a way. But
about that.
Yeah, Colombia was tricky, right?
Yeah, it was hard. We filled our propane twice in Colombia, but technically it's illegal for them to fill a U.S. tank. So, yeah.
So you guys had a break-in, I think, in Panama. What are you doing to be smart now about safety, and what recommendations do you have for keeping personal documents, belongings, hard drives, that sort of thing safe?
So we always had a safe. We've always had a safe that we keep all of our documents in and everything that we would need to get home or anything like that. But since then, we had actually our laptops were in a very silly spot before, and if the thief knew, they would have been able to get them very easily. Yeah. So we found a better spot for a lot more electronics. Just keeping things, better secured in the van. We don't know why they left. They didn't steal anything at all, which was so lucky because they could have gotten away with so much money. But we also sometimes if if it's a sketchy area, we'll leave the dog in the van because she'll bark at someone if they walk by the van. And she was with us whenever we were there. I think the other thing is we parked the van in a spot where we couldn't see it. And now we would definitely just move the van closer to us if we knew we couldn't see it. And yeah, stuff like that, just like trying to be able to see the van most of the time, or leave the dog in there so that she can be a security. And then we also put in security film, so that it's harder for them to break the windows. And I think that has helped. I mean, it helps with our peace of mind, because at first it felt like we couldn't sleep, just like thinking somebody's going to break the window all the time. But once we put the security film in, it felt a lot better.
Yeah, I think having the dog is so nice too. Even when we're in here at night, like if somebody comes to knock, then, you know, the first thing they hear is a big scary black dog barking back at them. And, you know, that definitely gives people pause.
Yeah. It's funny because if we roll down the window, she'll just like start licking their hands or something, which really gives it away that she's not scary. but she gives the right idea across at first.
When you put the security film on the windows, are you still able to, like, when you look out the window, does it still look the same, or does it look like kind of like there's film on the window?
You know, I think there's some better and worse installers, and over time, ours has started to deteriorate a bit. You really don't notice it, but if you look closely, there's some kind of vertical lines in it, which might have been from some dirt when you roll down the window, scratching it. Or it could be the dog, you know? Yeah, there's like a couple bubbles in it. It's really not too bad, but over time it's starting to bug me.
So generally speaking, for South America in 2022, what's your take on personal safety? How safe do you feel?
I feel really safe. Yeah.
Yeah, we feel safe. I mean, I don't think we've really had anything sketchy happen.
Nothing unsavory. I mean, we're always alert. I think all travelers understand that, no, it's not an awesome idea, even in the U.S., to walk around stumbling, you know, like drank too much, or, you know, seek out, drugs or something like that, or, you know, just we're trying to stay out of trouble. We're trying to make the right decision so that we don't put ourselves in a bad security situation.
Yeah, you can really tell a bad neighborhood when you see it. And honestly, one of the sketchiest ones was in Chicago. So we were really careful in Chicago. Like, we checked out all the spots. We were even like looking at Zillow, like the property values, like which Planet Fitness is best to sleep at in Chicago.
A really good advice that we heard from a local too is, if you're driving through a little town at night and you see children and women and old people walking around, it's a safe little town and you probably don't have to worry. But if you only see, like, you know, men walking around and like maybe, you know, if it looks kind of scary, it probably, you know, you might want to just keep rolling.
I think it takes a bit of tactics occasionally. Like, one time we got back to the van and there was like this really drunk guy just leaning on it. You know, he wanted money, and I just walked around the other side, got on the other side, and just drove right away. You know, doesn't even say a word to him. But you got to be a little bit tricky sometimes. But really, it's been overall quite safe.
Yeah, I haven't felt unsafe.
We started out reading that book. What's it called again?
It's Not Safe, Don't Go There, You'll Die.
Yeah, by Life Remotely. And now we're seeing a lot of their check-ins on iOverlander. But that really goes through some good ideas you can do before entering Mexico. So we installed the safe, we made like a secret shelf, we installed a locking gas cap, got security lug nuts, you know, a few things like that that really probably have helped, but who knows.
You guys traveling with a dog and a cat, what should people know about overlanding with pets when it comes to crossing borders?
For crossing borders, usually it's just a rabies vaccine that they'll need, but sometimes they need so much more. sometimes you have to do export paperwork. You have to get health certificates, go to different vets. And if you're going through a border every month, that means that you're going every month to another vet. So I know that the cat and the dog are super healthy, but yeah, sometimes it's a good amount of work, but it's always been very worth it for the both of us. Like, we love traveling with our cat and our dog. They make the van feel much more homey. And
yeah, like last night when I was bumming, Graham, the cat, would come right up to me and snuggle because you can kind of tell. And
yeah,
it really takes the edge off. But usually Emily does all that research on the border crossings. You can look at the border crossing on iOverlander, get all the details, and as well, Wiki Overland is a good resource for that stuff. But I think it's only been maybe 1 or 2 borders where it was a bit tricky, and really it's just a bit more paperwork. I think that was from Nicaragua to Costa Rica, right? That one took a while.
I think, yeah, and Honduras to Nicaragua. Nicaragua has a lot of paperwork. You have to import and export the pets. Yeah.
Yeah, usually we do all the paperwork. When we just had the cat and we were going to Alaska, there's a bunch of little places you can go into Canada and out, and sometimes the cat would just hide, you know? But now we got the dog, and she's pretty obvious, so.
How many countries have you guys been to now?
In the van, this is 11.
Wow, yesterday.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Congrats.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, it's been super fun.
So how do you prep for border crossings? You said you're pretty good with crossings now. Give us your best tips.
Yes. So with COVID, it has been kind of hard because you have to know which tests to get, antigen, PCR, stuff like that. And I usually look on the embassy website for that, as well as talking to travelers. We've had these backpackers that were ahead of us, like maybe like a week ahead of us. So every border crossing, they were like, yep, that worked. No, that didn't work. So that was really great. If I can suggest anything, it's to find a person that goes ahead of you. And then besides that, it's Wiki Overland. We usually read that about a week before to see what we need. And then again, the night before. iOverlander as well is really good. And
yeah, Emily always packs a bag with all the original paperwork, and we have a whole binder full of every copy.
Yeah.
So usually we just have to get a copy or 2 of like the latest paperwork we just got, and we have like everything just ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a binder full. We have a bag full of our originals, the copy binder. We also have the pet binder, and then I have all of the papers that we kind of no longer need, the expired paperwork, I call it. And that's just like TIPs from previous countries or, insurances from previous countries, stuff like that.
So usually it's kind of 4 things.
Mm-hmm.
Your paperwork, like your visa, the pet paperwork, the van's paperwork, which they call a TIP or a TVIP.
Temporary vehicle import permit.
Yeah. And then the last one, the COVID stuff. So.
Yeah.
Are most countries requiring that you've got vaccination, proof of that, and a current COVID test?
Yes. So for Ecuador, we needed the proof of vaccination and then also a PCR test that we had to take 3 days before. Colombia didn't need anything. Whenever we got into Panama, I don't remember if it was
But just a test. It's all been changing.
Yeah. Whenever we were in Panama, that we got our vaccines in Panama. So before that, they didn't really require it for us because no one really had it yet. So ever since then, oh my gosh, yeah, yesterday to even get into a grocery store, we had to give our vaccines.
Yeah.
Our vaccine card.
Oh, seriously?
And then
yeah, isn't that wild? In the U.S., they didn't ask us once.
Well, there'd be a big uproar if you asked for that going into a grocery store.
I know. But that makes me, so most of the people must be vaccinated. So
in Colombia, they were pretty proactive about asking for it for the tourist destinations. So we had a friend who, our buddy tried to go to the museum. They said no. He said, I'll go grab a coffee. We met up with him again and tried to go up to this mountain up above Bogota. They said, hey, you need that. And so he couldn't go again. The next day, he went and got his vaccine. So.
Problem solved.
Yeah.
So 2 people in a small shared space must have some kind of challenges pop up every once in a while. During times of stress and conflict, what have you found that works for you in navigating those times?
I think leaving each other alone for a couple minutes is pretty good. And we're pretty good now at saying like, okay, you gotta leave me alone. Because I mean, just like trying to think it through, or, you know, see the other person's point of view is really important. Trying to communicate what you're feeling has been really big for us too.
Yeah, usually we need to calm down.
Yeah.
Either by taking a walk, you know, be separate a little while.
Yeah. And it's been pretty easy. Danny has his outlets, like he'll go to the skate park or something like that. And I will take the dog for a walk, usually wander around, and we found that has been working pretty well.
Well, it sounds like Danny's going to play the guitar really loud.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
You can't hear me.
Therapeutic.
Do you guys intentionally plan personal time away for each other?
Well, in the mornings I have alone time. I'll make coffee and tea and everything, and Danny will stay in bed a little bit later. So I usually have about an hour by myself in the morning. But beyond that, I have taken trips back to the U.S., and it's not really so that I could get away from Danny, but it was usually just because I missed home and my family. But those trips have really helped, and we've, like, you know, distance makes the heart grow fonder. We definitely have felt that as soon as we get back, we feel like, as soon as I get back, I'm like, yeah, we can go travel some more. I feel rejuvenated. And yeah, I've taken one trip home every year for the past 3 years. So
that's cool. So let's do finance stuff real quick. To finance your adventures, it looks like you're an app developer. Is that right?
Yes, I make iPhone apps.
That is super intriguing. I was super interested to see that. So, like, how many hours a week do you think you spend working?
Ooh, on average, not many.
That's awesome. Danny's got to figure it out.
He does.
It's pretty weird, though, because actually my main money-making app, Apple removed it from the App Store because they don't allow cache cleaning apps that clean your phone. It was called the Magic Phone Cleaner. And that happened a little bit, like probably
2019.
Yeah, like 2 months into banning. So I was like a bit in a bad mood, you know, for the first couple months of the ban, which was like really terrible timing. But yeah, it's still on people's phones. So I think it had like 5 million downloads, and you know, this whole 3 years it hasn't been in the App Store. And it's still been making enough money to live off. And I'm not even allowed to work on it, really. So
that's his excuse.
That's awesome. That's cool. So what's your general advice to people who want to do the Pan Am when it comes to cost?
Yeah, our friend with the Combi, he's spending about $600 a month. And I think we're spending $1,500 to $2,000, depending on where we go, how much we splurge. But it's really pretty cheap compared to living in an apartment and how much we would go out to the bars or go to the restaurants. So I think it's a lot more affordable than people realize, especially considering how you don't have to get a hotel room every night and you have your own bed the whole time. So
yeah, we don't eat out very much, but even if we do eat out, we try and go to local places, and it's pretty cheap, and then we'll be able to see the culture of the people and everything like that. Yeah, I don't think we've turned down too many things because of price. It's generally been pretty cheap. There are a couple things that we were like, I don't know, the more things that you can do on your own, the cheaper everything would be. The less tours you go on, if you can figure that stuff out on your own, it'll be a lot easier to go for longer.
And the cheapest countries have been Colombia was number one cheapest.
Oh, so cheap.
Number two, Nicaragua.
and Mexico.
Mexico, yeah. So if you're in those countries, it's really not bad at all. If you're in Costa Rica, you might be spending $30 to do a hike to a waterfall or something crazy like that.
And it'd only be a 2-mile hike, and the trail is going to be great, but you need a guide for some reason. They're really good at marketing.
But there's so many animals. Costa Rica is amazing.
You can do it, but you can do it for cheap too. Even Costa Rica, we've seen so many animals that weren't in a place where we had to spend money to go and do that. It's just the research, really, figuring out where there's always another option that's usually less expensive.
And I guess the biggest cost of the Pan Am is getting from Panama to Colombia.
Oh, yeah.
Because, for our size vehicle, you can fit it in a container, share a container, and the total price, I think, worked out to be $1,800 for us and our container buddy. But that's just the shipping. You got to factor in the flight, which was probably another $500 or something.
Mm-hmm.
The hotels you need because you don't have your rig for about 3 days before and a week after. So that's something to keep in mind.
And how are you managing your mail?
Our mail. Danny's dad is our guy. We send it all to his parents' house. So yeah, his parents we're so lucky to have them. They've been really nice about sending us screenshots of whatever mail we get. And
yeah, it's great because there's no income tax in Washington State as well. So got my business there. My dad receives the mail and forwards it to us by email. But I know there are services that will do that for you. We don't really receive like that much mail. So, and then I usually will get them like a nice gift certificate once a year or something to, but I think they really enjoy being a part of our life and helping out. So I love my parents so much.
It's awesome. So what, if anything, has restored your faith in humanity during your time that you've been traveling for the 3.5 years?
Maybe how many people have really been ready to help us at the drop of a hat. We walked up to a guy in the middle of Colombia, and my phone no longer worked because we got a bad SIM card, and we said, hey, can we use your basically social security number to get me a phone, like a SIM card? And he said, sure. And he just and his friend came in while he was doing it, and he's like, what are you doing, man? We have to go to lunch. And he was like, oh, I'm just helping them get a SIM card.
Yeah.
He let us use his social security, his address, and everything. And
that's awesome.
And he just stopped what he was doing. It was amazing.
I remember also in Bocas del Toro in Panama, it was really hard to find a place for a van. There was 1 or 2 spots. But we went scuba diving with this company, and it was the cheapest scuba dive we've ever done. I think it was $50 for 2 dives. And then the owner said, hey, if you guys want a shower or something, come on over. And so we ended up spending the night at his house, and he had a whole upper level that was empty that usually a surfing buddies who would come in would use. So we just got to hang out up there, use the Wi-Fi, the shower, probably filled the water.
Mm-hmm.
Our dog was playing with his dogs and everything. And it's just so many times things like that have happened where it's just, man, thank you so much.
Yeah, we would have been struggling without those people.
It's awesome. So with your travels for the last 3.5 years, if you look back, what advice would you give your 5-year younger selves?
I think slow down.
Yeah.
In the beginning, we were going pretty fast, and I think we would have had such a better time in the U.S. if we were traveling as slow as we are now. But we just wanted to go everywhere. We were so excited.
Yeah, we were zigzagging.
We were zigzagging. But I would definitely tell them, smell the roses because this is nice.
Yeah, the hardest times are when you have, a plan up ahead.
Yeah.
And then, maybe I would tell myself, don't plan with other people too far down the road because that makes it so hard because then you're like, oh, man, we got to go 1,000 miles. I'm like, 2 days because we're supposed to meet up with that person.
Yeah.
So yeah, going slower would have been a really good advice.
If you could put any message on every billboard in America, what would it be?
South isn't scary.
Let's wrap it up with some fun facts about you. What's your favorite kind of music? And between the two of you, who's the better singer?
I think we both. Oh, well, we both like indie music a lot.
Lo-fi.
Yeah, we both really like lo-fi, but there's no singing in it. But I'm the better singer.
Definitely.
Very good.
Definitely. Yeah, and of course, like road trip songs, like what's that? Convoy.
Yeah,
You
that's.
gotta put that one on when you're in a convoy.
What's a favorite drink in the morning to get you going?
Oh, yeah, I drink tea and Danny drinks coffee. He's been trying all the coffees from every country. Which one do you think is?
Well, I mean, even just the cheap coffee in all these countries has been so good.
Yeah.
But I really like making the coffee in the cafetera. Like my abuela bought it for me. So it's like that percolator you put on the stove. And that's really nice because there's no
Waste.
there's no waste, easy cleanup. Because at first we had a French press, and that, in the van, it's a bit much water, a bit too hard to clean. Then we did the pour over for a long time, which is super easy to clean, but you have that waste every day of the filter. I guess there's probably some reusable ones too. But I love the flavor and the strongness of the percolator coffee.
Awesome. Sounds good.
And what's a favorite beverage at night to wind down after a long day?
Chamomile?
Yeah, we drink chamomile tea at night if it's hot, if it's cold, and then if it's hot, we'll have probably a beer if it's hot. Try and get to sleep because you're gonna be sweating all night.
What's your best advice to aspiring overlanders and adventure enthusiasts listening right now?
I would say if you can work online, do it. Get that figured out first.
And how can people learn more about you?
So you can find us on YouTube at the Vandersons channel, and then on Instagram we're at the.Vandersons, and we also have a website that's vandersons.com, and it's just been following our journey since about Guatemala down here into Ecuador. So we only started it about probably 8 months ago, but we love making new videos to show what we've been doing and showing people that it's not as hard as we think to get all the way down here and travel like we do.
Yeah, and if you go to either the Instagram or the YouTube, the Vandersons, you'll see a link to my apps, which are all under Daniel Anderson. So that would be great if anybody wants to check out one of my apps as well.
Any more information you'd like to give or useful resources our listeners should check out?
I really liked that book. Don't go there. It's not safe. You'll die. iOverlander, of course, is probably the main resource. I did a little volunteering for them. Great people. So you definitely want to get that one on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
And you can always Google most things.
Yeah.
If you're looking for anything on the road. We're very lucky to be alive with the internet.
That is true. That is so true. So true. So I was going through your website this morning. Nice job on the blog. There's some really good articles in there. So for our listeners, if you were looking to get more information on their travels going into South America, some really good blog posts in there.
Thanks.
Yeah, there's border crossing stuff. The border crossings are the hardest part, so I always try and tell people how to do that.
Yep. So super good job there. Emily, Danny, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. We had a little bit of challenge in connecting this morning, so thank you for sticking to it and finding a way to make it work. It's been super fun chatting with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us on. It was great chatting.
Yeah, you guys rock. Thank you so much.
Have an awesome day.
Thank you.
You too.
Cheers.